Morning, everybody. Today is the 22nd of August. This is Sunday. It's sunny on a Sunday. Makes sense, doesn't it? Today is the Sunday sermon of the preacher, Charlie Veitch. Only kidding. We're going to talk about a few subjects today. I want to first of all start with thanking Daniel from the Black Belt Barrister YouTube channel for doing an amazing piece, not only on wait for it to go over 30 seconds so I don't get demonetized. Big story on Big Red and Pussy Boy's actions at Coram Hall, dealing with a civil trespasser, how you might actually commit crimes. And then he used me in a further video as a positive example of what is so-called as the auditing community. I don't consider myself part of the auditing community, but there is enough overlap from Charlie, the original gangster, who's been doing similar sort of things since 2009, to all the explosion of all the many tryhards and copycats and wannabes and people who pay great honor because imitation is the highest form of flattery. So, Daniel, thank you for saying that I do not cause confusion and stress and worry in the eyes of the security services, because when I am questioned as to why I'm filming, I very clearly say, mostly, especially in the modern era, recently, I say it's for my YouTube channel. I need some shots of cops because nobody clicks on it if it's not got authority figures in it. And usually, most of the police in Manchester know me, and the ones who don't, because I've been honest, and people have an inbuilt bullshit detector. And when you use honesty, don't know why I'm doing that. When you use honesty with people, it kind of gives your argument that extra oomph, that extra thrust into wherever you want your thrusting argument to go. So yeah, we can kind of tell when someone's being honest, mostly. Now, another thing Daniel said, I watched another video of his which was brought in by popular demand. Very interesting, maybe one of his most interesting videos. Can you use self-defense against the police when they're arresting you? Or not even just when they're arresting you, can you use self-defense against the police? Full stop, period. And there's been a few interesting cases, and actually watching the video, it kind of dispelled a lot of paranoias I have, because we all worry that is the state this kind of disgusting machine of prejudice? Is it going to come down and take me out? But British law, as Daniel often says on his channel, isn't black and white. It's a million shades of grey and something in between. And I can always change my name if that's what you need. Sorry, forgive the Counting Crows interlude. And Daniel, the reason why his channel is called Black Belt Barrister, it's not just to play on, you know, a kind of very high level, very well trained barrister. He is also a black belt in martial arts, so there is that crossover. And it's quite refreshing to see someone who's very intelligent, who's a barrister, and also very, you know, proficient in martial arts, who's a black belt. He says that with any self-defense situation, any argument or fight or potential violence, he says, if you can, if you're able to, the first and best thing to always do is to walk away. Get out of there. Go. If you can, walk away. I'm going to give you a real-world example where you can walk away, and you should. I was sat outside HMP Strangeways, now known as HMP Manchester, Her Majesty's Prison. And I was there enjoying my cigarette, watching the sunset. Bear in mind, this is about a month ago, so sunset was quite late, about 9:30 p.m. And what I can describe as two ruffian-looking guys, maybe early 20s, a bit deranged looking, you know, they just looked a bit wrong. What the local vernacular would describe as wrong-uns. So a couple of wrong-uns come up to me, and they're like, "What are you smoking?" I say, "A cigarette." And they're like, "We know you." And one of them was saying, "We know you." And it was like Pinky in the Brain. Like, the Brain was this kid on the bike, and he goes, "Yeah, we know you." And then Pinky was like, "Who is this guy?" And it was crazy. It was like a real bad person leading an idiot. And so they kind of stood round me, and then the Brain one goes, "Yeah, this is that fucking YouTuber guy who goes round and insults the homeless." And then the kind of crazy ones. And I was sat down and they're stood over me. And they're not big people. You know, I'm big. They're not big. They were like, you know, a lot of runty type people become crackheads. Poor things. And anyway, I could see that it was going to descend into bad shit. So I just quickly, as soon as they started coming closer, and the crazy one, the kind of pinky one, it was, and then the kind of malicious, malevolent one was like, yeah, Dave, he's the bad one. So I just stood up, I said, gentlemen, I want no trouble. I'm sorry if I've caused any problem for you, no beef. And I just walked around them and walked away. And they didn't give chase. They kind of spoke amongst themselves. I looked over my shoulder and that was the end of that. If you can, walk away. Now, my viewers have seen me in other situations where you're surrounded or there's weapons involved, quite recently, and I couldn't walk away. Your only escape route is through the person blocking the door. And you kind of go into the flow, the zazen, as the kind of Eastern Orientalists would say. Okay, there's unnecessary, as the Orientalists would say. You go into zazen, and there's a great piece. It's almost like you become unconscious, and you do what needs to be done. So, there's your 6-minute plug for Black Belt Barrister. But it is a fucking excellent channel, so you should all subscribe. And I am very honored. I'm not worthy! I'm not worthy! Alice Cooper! Good old Daniel. So, part 2 now. How many of you are as shocked as I am? Your jaw, you're watching like this. There's a bunch of American soldiers, American US Army, M4 carbines over their shoulders, walking around a crowd outside Kabul airport with Taliban soldiers, or Taliban militiamen, whatever you call it, Taliban fighters, literally 3 meters away, whipping the crowd. There's like men, women, and children trying to get to the American line. You've got American soldiers stood there. You've got Taliban whipping the crowd. Cool whipping the crowd. I never thought I would see Taliban and American and British soldiers processing the same crowd at Kabul airport. Now here's the realpolitik of the situation. Realpolitik. Many people are upset that no one in Northern Ireland has been convicted for the murder of, forgive me, 29 people and one unborn baby. 30 people at the Omagh bombings, 96, 97. No one's been convicted of literally killing 30 civilians. That's 8 more than the Manchester Arena bomb. No one's been convicted. There's no tit for tat anymore in Northern Ireland. We've got people, former bomb makers, shaking hands with the Queen. Former people who have probably killed British soldiers holding political positions in Stormont. That's the realpolitik. We all want justice. We all want murderers brought to justice. But what the world needs, bigger than an eye for an eye, retribution, we need an end to the fighting. I've had conversations with various people in the last few days. Some are saying the Americans are going to reinvade Afghanistan. Some are saying NATO are going to do a aerial bombing campaign so that some other tribe can kick out the Taliban. Some are saying that the Taliban are now reformed. They've had 20 years of learning that if you blow up Buddhist statues, you get bombed. If you behead little girls in public for being raped, that's not their fault, you get bombed. You allow Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden and a bunch of other Saudi billionaires to use your mountains and caves as a place to blow up American embassies and buildings, you get bombed. Let's do one more. You stop girls attending school and you turn your country into a backwater fucking medieval fucking fascist dictator. You get bombed! So the Taliban have had 20 years of being bombed. They've been up in the mountains in Pakistan and other parts of Afghanistan hiding. And they've had 20 years of not wanting to be bombed. So the realpolitik of the situation is, we have no choice. The Taliban are there. The Afghan people want the Taliban. 99% of the Afghan people want Sharia law. Most Afghans don't feel like an Afghan. They're part of this valley's tribe, that valley's tribe, that tribe. But the one thing which does unite them is their belief in Islam and their prophet Muhammad. So no wonder, you know, it's like the fucking Viet Cong. Similar length of war, 20 years. The French fighting the Vietnamese, fucking Americans fighting the Vietnamese. They pull out of Saigon, boom. Ho Chi Minh City overnight. The Taliban won Kabul without a single bullet being fired. The big joke of Arab armies is that they'll fight to the first bullet. You saw how well they did against Israel in various wars, 6-day war, Yom Kippur war. We're going to wipe Israel off the face of the map. Oh, kind of backfired. Israelis unified, strong, disparate armies. So when the Afghan security forces, they could read the writing on the wall, the Taliban storming in from every place. 7-foot-tall desert warriors with testicles the size of grapefruits. A man with nothing left to lose is the most formidable enemy. And a man who has figured out, whether he's right or wrong, a man whose mind has figured out that he is connected to the absolute, the very source of the universe itself, that consciousness itself is an infinite resolving of a self-imposed paradox. There's nothing outside the paradox. Paradox creates all sorts of things: life, death, on, off, binary 1, binary 0, daytime, nighttime, electron on, electron off, David Hasselhoff, David Hasselhoff. Someone who's prepared to literally die to win is unstoppable. The fear of death is also the thing which allows you to be enslaved. Now let's get on to the final topic here, the final subject. I'm going to keep it mainstream. I'm going to try not to get demonetized. But the governments around the world are accelerating their desire for people to have the sheep dip. Joe Biden, old Sniffy, came out the other day and the pharmaceutical giants were like, oh my God. He said, look, you're going to get a third sheep dip, a booster sheep dip coming up. Booster sheep dip. And the pharmaceutical giants and the CDC, Center for Disease Control. I know the NHS. So they were like, oh, Joe Biden shouldn't be giving out these messages because it'll undermine public confidence in the 2 shots of the sheep dip they've already had. Now, my advice, just like Daniel from the Black Belt Barrister, and again, this is my advice, Charlie Veitch, and Daniel would not endorse this message, and I'm saying the separate, but it's the same message. The first step of self-defense, if you can, is to walk away. Now, here's my advice for all my viewers, because a lot of you think very similarly to how I do, and many of you don't. And you still watch, and I appreciate that because I watch people that I disagree with. I find it vital. It's vital to thinking. You see in Australia, they're locking down, they're fucking firing rubber bullets on the anti-sheep dip protesters. See in New Zealand, when Chief Witch, and again, no sexism here, she's a fucking witch, Jacinda Ardern, locks down the entire nation for one case. One case of the coffin sneeze. When you've got supermarkets in France, les supermarchés, not allowing people without the sheep dip passport into supermarkets and people blocking entrances of supermarkets. When you've got police walking around the cafes à la bord de la Seine, à la gauche, la bord gauche de la Seine. And you've got men in uniform with guns going up to little couples, drinking their espressos, saying, show me your digital papers. The Charlie Veitch advice is stay away from it all, man. Stay away. Walk away. This will all blow over in a couple of years. There's a lot of profits to be made right now, and they're not going to fucking say, well, natural antibodies might be okay if you're young and you don't have pre-existing conditions. You're probably okay. Human body, in fact, mammals, life, whatever you were, a dinosaur, a pre-dinosaur. We've got this system that has been fighting wrong code. And let's just kind of break it down here. Look at that hill I've walked down since I've been ranting at you guys. Think of it in terms of mathematics and code. Break it down. What are viruses? What are viruses? They're bits of mathematical code that are not alive, that cause a bit of damage when they connect to other equations in your maths. Think of the matrix. Think of the cascading green little figures. The virus is a kind of mini agent that gets in there. You know Mr. Smith, when he, in the second Matrix, he's unplugged and he sticks his hand into people and he says, me too. And then a kind of 100 Agent Smiths try and fight Neo. Your little bit of RNA, outside of other alive things, is a piece of maths. And your body, your immune system, has been fighting that shit since literally the genesis of life on this planet. We are in a soup of bad mathematics. We are in a universe of perpetual entropy towards the heat death of the universe. And life is that rebellion. Life is the rebel that Albert Camus wrote in 1952, winning the Nobel Prize for Literature. Life is the very thing which allows us to love, to be free, and to tell the truth. So on that note, 17 minutes is enough. I want to say thank you for watching. This is Charlie Veitch coming at you on Sunday the 22nd of August 2021. Take care of yourselves and of each other.